Hi everybody, my name is Cyrus Jansen and I want to welcome you back to the channel. I want to welcome you to this very special video that I'm producing today. I call it special because it's a little bit different. This is going to be a different video than you're used to seeing on this channel because what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to do one take. I'm going to click the record button. I'm just going to talk freely. I'm not going to edit this video. And I'm just going to share with you some of the thoughts that I'm experiencing today as we are less than 1 week away from the United States presidential election. But the election is not going to be the topic that I'm going to talk about specifically right now. I actually want to share with you some of my thoughts as an American expat. Now, many of you who follow this channel know that I often introduce my videos and tell everybody that I'm an American expat. I've been living around the world for the past 13 years. And recently, I actually just passed a very big milestone, and that is 5,000 consecutive days living abroad. Now, this is a big milestone, and by certainly what I mean by living abroad, that means, living outside of the United States. Now, during this time, I certainly have made trips back to America, either for holiday or personal reasons or whatever. So I have been back many times to America, but during this time, I've always been living in my permanent address abroad. The first 7 years of this time was spent in Shanghai, China, the next 3 years in Hong Kong, and the last 3 years have been spent here in Canada. And this is where I'm recording from today, from here in my home office here in Canada. And I want to just share with you some thoughts as I've reached this milestone and kind of some of the lessons that I've learned from almost 14 years abroad. And the way that I want to start this video off is I want to share with you a recent conversation I had with my 76-year-old mother who lives with my father, both in Orlando, Florida, my hometown. Now, my mother, a couple of months ago, she called me and the COVID-19 has been very difficult for her. Florida has been a hot spot, for COVID-19. It's been difficult for her because she's been unable to travel at all. She has been unable to visit us, to see her grandchildren, etc. And it has been very difficult for her and my father. But my mother said something very interesting. She said, "Cyrus, I'm very grateful for you. I'm grateful that you're my son and grateful for our family. But do you want to know what I'm most grateful for? I'm grateful to the fact that you left America." And when she said these words, it really was quite a statement. Obviously I am an American citizen. I love my country. It is an amazing country, and there's so many great people there. There's so many great cities in America. But, now entering my 14th year of living abroad, I have to be completely honest with you. It's very difficult for me to look at America today and to really understand what I'm looking at. It's just so different than the America that I grew up in. And I want to give you some insight into why my mother had this, why she made this statement. You see, my mother is actually not an American citizen. My mother is a German national. She immigrated from Germany at the age of 20 to America. Interesting enough, she's been living in America for over 50 years, but has never acquired American citizenship. She retains her German nationality to this day. She loves America. I mean, she lives there, her family's there, she raised her children there. Obviously everything that she has is in America right now, but she is very proud of, remaining European, and remaining German. And I think what's really tough for her is she came to America, in the mid-60s, right after JFK was assassinated. And that was a time, of course, when JFK said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And my mother loved that quote. And she always, talked about that. She's very proud that, as an immigrant coming into America at the age of 20, she had to learn English, improve her English. She had to really learn to fit in society. She's contributed a lot to America. And, I think it's really difficult for her to just see this progression of America over the last 50 years. And I know that she's very grateful that I've left America just because, my eyes have been opened. I've been able to see, a lot more about the whole world. I've traveled to many countries now, obviously been living abroad. And, I think what's really difficult to hear her say is, in addition to that, after that statement that she made, she followed me with another phone call, about a month later. And she said, "Cyrus, I decided to purchase a gun today." And I just said, "Mom, why would you purchase a gun? I just don't think that's really the best thing to be doing. 76 years old, do you really need a gun?" And she said, "I don't feel safe in the home anymore. and this is kind of the reality of where I am in America right now. We live in Orlando, Florida, regular neighborhood. But my mother at age 76, she doesn't feel comfortable living in her house without having a gun for protection. And I'm not trying to say that this is everywhere in America. Again, this is just my personal experience. This is my personal family that I'm talking about. But one of the statements she says, I'm in the last quarter of my life, and I never thought that I'd have to live in America and it would be in this deteriorating state right now. And I think what's really difficult, what I really see with America, and I'm going to contrast this with Canada, for example, because in Canada, what's really interesting about this country, and what's fun about being an American in Canada, is that I'm still an expat here. Canada and the United States are very, very different. Very different government systems, culturally very different, and it's been fascinating for me to learn more about this country. Now, when you're in Canada, of course you have the conservatives and the liberals, but what I find in Canada is that they're much closer to this middle line, which of course is the fact that everybody in this country is Canadian. And I find that people here in the politics here is much healthier because you never lose fact of the sense that you are Canadians. And I think this is really the biggest problem that we're experiencing right now in America, is the fact that there is no middle ground anymore, the fact that we're Americans. You see, right now, the right and the left have become so extreme that we're so divided. And what we've seen this ripple down effect throughout American society. You see, many Americans today, their families are being split apart because of political differences. Friendships are being, split apart. Neighbors are being split apart. People are simply losing sense of the fact that we are all Americans at the end of the day. That's the biggest thing that I experienced really in the last election, 2016. It was so much, I hate Donald Trump, or I hate Hillary Clinton. I hate Democrats. I hate Republicans. There's so much anger and hate towards the other side, no matter which side you're on. And the reality is that I kept having to tell people in 2016, it doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton that wins that election. At the end of the day, it's an American that's going to win the election, and we need to figure out how we are moving forward as a country. And I think that is the real difficult thing that's happening in America right now. You see, with the nation that is so divided right now, it is very difficult for this country to really be united and for us to be moving forward. And that is why we have so many issues that are continuing to be a problem in America. For instance, racism. We've never handled the race problem at all. We've had an African-American president for 8 years. That did not really help the race problem at all. We continue to have these problems. And unfortunately, with the rise of Western social media, again, I've mentioned this on many videos, watch the movie The Social Dilemma. This political divide that we have in America, this extremeness, is not an accident. This has been done by social media, the amount of prevalent fake news that is circulating around. And it's very difficult because as an American, you're constantly, when you watch the news in America, you cannot take that as a fact. You have to really go down and investigate. Is this fake news or is this real news? We know that in 2016, there was tremendous amount of, outside influences of Western social media played a huge role in determining the outcome of this 2016, presidential election. And it's really difficult. Again, we're less than a week away from the presidential election in 2020. And I will predict right now that it doesn't really matter who's going to win, whether it's Trump or Biden. I know that it is going to result in absolute chaos in America. I think you're going to see, the other side, whoever is losing, is going to contest the election. They're going to say that it was rigged. They're going to say that, these mail-in ballots, are filled with fraud. And it really questions the entire legitimacy of democracy. And this is what's really difficult. This is what's really interesting, I should say. You see, Michael Pompeo and the United States government are coming out with statements like, China is the greatest threat to democracy in the world. Now, I don't actually agree with that statement. I would say, though, is that the United States and how we are running the country and how divided our country is, I believe that, we are actually the biggest threat to democracy is because we are just showing the world that democracy at its worst is just completely unfunctional. And I often talk about China, and obviously my channel is focused on China, and it is focused on, the relationship between my home country of America and China. But let's forget about China right now. Let's look at Canada. I'm in Canada right now, and collectively as a nation, Canadians and many other countries around the world are literally sitting here scratching their heads, just looking at America and thinking, what are you guys doing right now? Like it is absolutely shocking how the country is operating, and it's just sad. I mean, there's really no other word to describe it. And the reality is that China does not want America to fail. And I think many people really need to understand this. There is this rumor out there, or this belief that, China wants to see America fail. China wants to, seek revenge against America, and they're secretly out to destroy America. This is completely false. Number one, let's not forget who bailed America out of the financial crisis in 2008 and 2009. That was China, and they did that by buying all of the U.S. debt at that time. China to this day holds trillions of dollars of United States debt. If America fails, that is devastating for the country of China. China cannot function without a healthy America as well. So it is in the best interest of China to also have a strong America. They want to have trade deals with America. They want to have a healthy relationship with America, much like I experienced when I first went to China in 2007. At that time, the United States and China's relationship was booming. And it was for many years after that, until recently, when all of a sudden, China has now become officially the scapegoat for almost every problem that we have in America today. And the reality is that not only does China want a strong America, everybody around the world. I mean, we have Europeans. I have many friends in Europe that are the same thing. They're looking at America and it's like, you guys are the world leader. You are the world leader. How can your country just be falling apart like this? Now, the interesting thing is, we all knew that China would overtake America in terms of the economy, becoming the worldwide leader in the economics, and becoming the economic superpower. That's the word I'm looking for. We all knew this was going to happen. I mean, 10 years ago, people were saying China will overtake America. But what's happened is the gap between America and China has becoming faster. It is faster and faster closing in. But what we really saw in 2020 is that COVID-19 really accelerated the speed of this gap closure. You see, China is going to overtake America much faster because of a situation like COVID. Now, COVID-19, it's really interesting to see not just how China has responded, but actually every country in Asia. You can pick any country in Asia, and the reality is that in Asia, there is much more a sense of community, of society. It very much is we need to sacrifice some personal freedom for the benefit of an entire country so that we can move forward as a country. And in America, we know that that's not the case. In America, freedom is by far the number one thing that we preach, right? Freedom is above anything. Freedom is actually so much more important. It's more important than human life itself in America. And that's been demonstrated by the fact that still to this day, again, this is late October, and the United States government does not have a plan in place to successfully battle COVID. We don't have a mandatory mask policy. We don't have all of these policies throughout the country because everything's delegated to governors. Every different state is different. And this is why we're continuing to see, America struggle to contain COVID. I mean, this past week, the statements from the White House, it's essentially like they're waving a white flag. We surrender. We realize we're never going to contain COVID. And so it's really difficult for America to move forward right now because they're struggling with this virus. The nation's divided. Racism is through the roof. Look at just want to defund the police. You have a current administration that is essentially, saying the FBI, all of these different agencies within the American government are all, contributors to fake news. The Trump administration is essentially discrediting all the different branches of, the United States government and saying everything's fake news, everything's, you're basically undermining the legitimacy of your own government. And this just, again, contributes to a weaker and weaker America. And I have to be honest with you, the emotions that I'm feeling right now as an American expat is very similar to what I was in 2016 when I was just so exhausted from this election process. The U.S. election is a very long process, and it's at this point where all of us are thinking, you know what, it's either going to be Trump or Biden. Let's get somebody in the office and let's try to move forward. But I have to be honest with you. Donald Trump or Joe Biden is not the change that we need to see in America today. So when people ask me, Cyrus, who are you voting for? Cyrus, who do you think is going to be the best leader for this country? I honestly think that it's really neither of them. Because you look at Donald Trump and you just simply ask yourself, has America been made great again? Is America better today in 2020 than it was in 2016? Here's the amazing thing. If you ask a lot of Trump supporters, they would say, yes, it is. But this is the problem when you only look at what's inside of America. You only see America from one perspective, and that's the perspective of being in America. And this is probably the greatest lesson that I've learned, from being an expat. Being an expat, of course, you learn about different cultures, about different societies as you travel the world and live in other countries. But the biggest lesson that I've learned of over 5,000 days abroad is the fact that me being an expat, I actually can learn more about my home country because now I'm on the outside looking in. I'm looking at America like the entire world looks at America. And I have to be honest, it makes my heart really sad because the whole world is looking at America, at this leader for so long. And now we're just seeing, just basically the collapse of an empire. And that is what we're seeing right now with America. I don't think that Donald Trump is the change that we need to see in America. Do I think Joe Biden is the change? I don't think he's the change. And I believe Joe Biden's getting a lot of votes simply because his last name is not Trump. That's the reality. He's not a very qualified leader either. But what I am hopeful for, and what my hope is for America is that because of democracy, because of the fact that democracy means that we essentially just need a new leader to rise up. A new leader can rise out of nowhere. We need somebody that is young, that is charismatic, that simply can unite people. We need to get back to the 1960s and 70s when my mother first immigrated to America. She said, she used to tell me stories of just how great it was to be in America because everybody, it didn't matter your politics back then. It didn't matter if you were Democrat or Republican. Everybody at that time was waving an American flag. Everybody was proud to be an American. And that's where we need to go back. I remember for me that experience came in 9/11. 2001, 9/11. I was a senior in high school when the Twin Towers were hit. And that was an amazing time to be in America because, the week after that, every single house, every single business, every single person had an American flag out. We were unified as a country. And it's sad that it takes a national tragedy like 9/11 to unify this country. But what we need to do as Americans is really get back to the core business, of being a united country. And I think right now we are just so divided. So my message to America is that, Donald Trump or Joe Biden is not the change that we need to see in America. So if they're not the change, then we need to be the change. We need to wake up and be the Americans that are going to make this change in America. And this is what I try to do as an expat. As an expat, I spend my life abroad. And so whenever I'm out in the world, whether if I'm in Canada or China or Europe, people meet me, I'm a representation of America, and I try my best to be a good representative of America. I want people to meet me and say, wow, Cyrus is an American. What a great representative of that country. That's my goal. That's what I'm trying to do. And I want people to realize is that China does not want to go out and destroy America. That is not the goal of China. China is willing to work with America. They always have been, and they always will be. China wants to learn to work with America, but the reality is that, we have to get away from this idea that democracy is the only way forward for China. China is going to continue as a one-party state. That's just a fact. You're not going to change that. So I think we just need to accept that. And the reality is that if you spend some time in China, you talk to Chinese people, you're going to find that the vast majority of people, they really like their life in China. The quality of life in China is improving every single day. I mean, people's lives are getting better. Wealth is being created. And this is the reality of what is happening in China. China is doing more benefit to the world than really any other country right now. I mean, if you look at the One Belt and the One Road initiative right now, basically the United States and China are going absolutely in the polar opposite directions. You have the United States, which is essentially saying, let's burn our bridges with China. Let's bring back all the manufacturing to China. I'm sorry, bring back all the manufacturing from China back to America. China's stealing our jobs. We want to focus everything on America. Meanwhile, China's saying, let's open up the One Belt, One Road initiative. Let's start building relationships with every country in the world. Let's help other countries and other nations like Africa. Look at all of the development that they're doing in Africa. That is going to bring a tremendous amount of positive change to the people of Africa. There is not one single country in the world that is doing more benefit for the continent of Africa than China itself. And, we have to learn to work with China. And again, this is why I make this YouTube channel. This is why I make videos. This is my passion. I want to see a world where the United States and China can learn to work together. This is where we have to go forward. So anyways, guys, this is kind of a new thing for me. Again, I just hit the record button and I just wanted to talk to you today. But these are some of my thoughts, my confessions, if you will, as an American expat. Some of the thoughts, the lessons that I've learned. But again, I just want to thank all of you for your continued support. It's going to be a little crazy. I'm excited to see what's going to happen, in the presidential election in the next week. What I'm most excited about is that it's going to be done, though. Where it's going to be done, we're going to have a result and we can move forward, and we're going to have to learn to work, with other countries in the world. So, guys, thank you for spending time with me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. What I'd like you to do, if you did enjoy this, drop me a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you'd like to have more of this kind of freestyle videos, more of these conversations, I'd love to do more of them. Also, write down, what are some future topics you'd like me to discuss. But anyways, if you're not already, hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys for your continued support. And I'm going to do my best to keep bringing you great content as we help try to build these bridges between the United States and China and the rest of the world. Guys, my name is Cyrus. Thanks for spending time with me today, and we'll see you in next week's video.